Sure that if you're around the microphones, you make sure that you understand that you're being recorded and that this is available for the public to watch. Before Robert gets started, Robert Thayer, our guest speaker tonight for the town hall, I just want to make sure that everybody understands and knows that we are running a Kings County Board of Supervisors District 5, 20th and 22nd Congressional District, the 33rd Assembly District debate. So we have invited every candidate for those different offices. Not all of them have responded. They may not all be there, but they have all been extended invitations. We're going to do that Thursday, February 1st at 6 p.m. The doors will open at 5:15 at the Hanford High School Presentation Center. So the event's free for anybody to come out. It will be a structured debate with questions. For those that don't have opponents that came out, we'll give them some time to speak, let us know about their platform. And we've done it before. We did it for the last election. We had a great turnout. It was very professionally done, and we're proud of it. So, again, if you could join us on the 1st of February at 6 p.m., doors open at 5:15 at the Hanford High School Presentation Center. All right, Robert, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
All right, well, thank you for giving me this mic. Let me get my notes turned on over here. Thank you to the 1776 group, and for those of you who are in attendance this evening. These candidate nights are important, and I think that we can all agree that there are some things that are occurring in government on a global scale, nationally and in the state, that we are not necessarily happy with, and it really starts here on the local level. And the Board of Supervisors, if you don't know, there's 5 elected Board of Supervisors in the County of Kings. They are the highest elected leaders in our counties. Multiply that out by 58 counties in California. Some counties have more than 5 Board of Supervisors, but you see the hierarchy that takes place. Separate of our legislative process in Sacramento with our assembly members or our senators, and these board positions are important. I've committed, some of you who you may not know me, hopefully by the end of this night you will. I've committed my life to serving here in Kings County, and for those of you who don't know me, you're gonna catch this story as we move along. But as it's been mentioned, I'm running for the District 5 seat on the Kings County Board of Supervisors. It's currently held by Richard Fagundes, and I want to say that he's in his 4th term, and basically the best way to describe it is the northeast sector of the county is District 5. It goes down to Kansas Avenue, up Highway 43, jogs its way through the city of Hanford, and then up the railroad tracks to the Fresno County line, and then everything kind of northwest or northeast of that is that District 5. For those of you who have no idea who I am, I currently serve as your undersheriff in this county. And I have served, if you're not familiar with what that position means, I hold the highest unelected position within the Kings County Sheriff's Office. I was appointed to a second command position by Sheriff Robinson back in 2011 when he took office, 13 years ago. I'm in my 13th year as being his second in command. And I might as well say at the same time, I serve at will to the sheriff. He and he alone determines my employment within our office. And I say that because I think then you can imagine the skill set that you have to have, that I have to possess in order to run a professional law enforcement organization, and the qualities and the expertise that come with that upon my retirement this year, that I can now bring into the District 5 seat and serve our county and our communities just in a different fashion. I've been asked many times, why don't you wait around and run for sheriff? And it's like I've been doing the sheriffing business for 34 years. I just started my 35th year this past November. And for me, I've served in that capacity, in the law enforcement capacity. I've served all of our communities clear through this county. And now it's just time to come and stand beside our different department heads. I see one of them in here tonight, and it's important to come and stand beside our DA and our probation and our veterans and our community development. And that's the skill set and the reason and the purpose why I want to do this. Instead of wandering off into a happy retirement, I want to continue to commit my life to serving our community. If you're not aware of it, our department, our sheriff's office, I oversee a department of over 120 plus employees. And in this position, I personally bring a very unique opportunity for the voter. The voter in this District 5 seat has the opportunity to elect a guy that will have served 35 years down in the arena. I've worked at the lowest level in this county, and I've raised to the highest rank in our office, to the highest ranks within the county itself. I'd hate to ponder a guess, but I'm probably the third, maybe fourth most senior person in working in the county today. And the voter has a very unique opportunity to select a person that you're not going to pull the wool over my head. I come into this position well educated on our government processes and how things are happening. And I know our budgets, not only the sheriff's office budget, but really across the board. I know, well, I don't want to say this in a bad sense, but I know where we hide our money. I know where there's cash flow. Not that we need to have it, or cash reserves. I know how the county goes about doing this. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's just that a thing that I'm already educated on, and I'm ready to hit the floor day one without having to learn how to eat this elephant that stands before us that we have to consume in order to restore our community back to what it was in 1989 when I came to work here. You remember those days? And I think, I won't ask for a show of hand, but I'm pretty sure everybody would raise their hand that they would want to go back to that. I do want to make note, because it's actually crossed my platform a few times, that I cannot be, nor will I be, the undersheriff and an elected supervisor. That does not work. I will retire from law enforcement in what year is this now? 2024. 2024 is my final year in law enforcement, and I will retire from this office. My hope is that in 2025, I rejoin the ranks of Kings County government, but as an elected supervisor. I would be remiss if I did not tell you that I've been married for 31 years to my lovely wife, Kim, down here in this hot pink jacket. 31 years we've been married. Kim is a court reporter. She's a deposition reporter. I met her in municipal court. You remember the days when we had municipal court? I think it might have been Judge Doan's court, and it might have been on Halloween. And she was the court reporter, I was the bailiff, and I was awestruck. And I married up. What's that song say? She married way, way down in Alabama. Together we've raised our 3 kids that are now adult kids in this community. All 3 of our kids graduated from Sierra Pacific High School here locally. All 3 went on to Azusa Pacific University down in Southern California to get their degree. Our oldest son, Robbie, and his wife, Jordan, January 6th, this past Saturday, gave birth to our first grandchild, a boy, Carter Davis Thayer. Yeah, just makes you realize that really nothing else in life really matters when you hold that little grandkid in your arms. But we're excited to turn the page of this new chapter in our life as grandparents. Our middle boy, Peyton, down here, handsome guy with the beard, is here tonight. Thanks, Peyton, for being here. Peyton also graduated from Azusa Pacific. He's a 7th grade math and science teacher over at Woodville. If you've ever heard of Woodville, California, it's kind of by Porterville. But he's been a math and science teacher over there for a couple of years. And then our daughter, Caitlin, actually today started the second half of her final semester, knock on wood, of her senior year, and is soon to be off of our payroll, I hope. Yeah. So what is my platform? There's really three main pieces of my platform that when you entwine it all together, I think it becomes the same wish list that all of us in this room have. As you can imagine, public safety is on my platform. I'm a firm believer that all of us here in this room, all of us in this community, deserve a safe community. We deserve to have the ability to walk these streets in Hanford or Lemoore or whatever community it is in this county without being molested by blight, by homelessness, by drug zombies, and we can see fully that the policies in this state have failed us. And quite frankly, it's exhausting. It seems sometimes that the sheriff and I are the only ones beating our drums, and you look around at other electeds and be like, come on, join this band. We have to start. It happens locally, and sometimes it feels very lonely when the sheriff's office seems to be one of the only advocates for that. But anyway, my pledge to you is that sheriff, fire, probation, district attorney is going to have my unequivocal support, that we're going to fund those organizations to the nth degree to ensure that public safety is taken care of here. Again, we all deserve a safe and thriving community. As you know, as the undersheriff, have over 34 years of experience dealing firsthand, seeing the impacts that crime and poverty and homelessness and mental health that has grown much wilder than these wildfires we see. It is out of control, and I've seen it firsthand. No one has to train me on this. No one has to show me this. I've seen personally what does not work. This is the flashy new words, evidence-based, right? Evidence-based. These evidence-based programs to deal with mental health and the evidence-based programs to deal with homelessness, they don't work. They haven't worked. And I sit on these committees, and I sit in the room, and I'm the guy that raises the hand going, how much money did we spend on this? And can anybody show me an example? Show me one example that this money went to where we can celebrate this, so we can raise our flag and celebrate an accomplishment. And just like you hear right now, it's silence. And quite frankly, I'm a little tired of it. And should you put me, should the voters, I earned this office from these voters, I plan to do something about it. And I'm not going to say I got a magic wand and this poof, everything is going to be better. But if I can't fix it, I'm sure I'm going to rattle a lot of cages and probably upset a lot of other folks because it's ridiculous that we're living in this atmosphere. Sorry, I said and I told myself I wasn't going to do that. So here's a number, $2.1 billion. Say that, $2.1 billion. You know what that represents? Represents the fiscal impact to our economy from our agriculture industry, our farmers. You can look around this county and see the bright, fertile ground that the Central Valley produces for the world. And of course, water is a foundation of that. And again, I don't possess a magic wand, but I possess some ears. I possess a pretty articulate speech or speaking voice. And I'm a small detail person. I recognize in my experiences that the small little finite language is where the devil lies, and that's where the important things are. And it is extremely hard. It's mind-numbing, boggling, difficult working in government and having to read those fine line details. But that's where I spend my life currently today in those types of details. And those are the details when it comes to water, when it comes to the ag community, that someone needs to take the lead in it. And it's one thing to stand on this platform and go, oh, I'm going to support water. Okay, yeah, sure. Well, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. But we're going to do something. We're going to stand by. And I know that our water basin, this Thayer Lake water basin, is getting ready to get put on probation. And I can see the turmoil that comes out of Sacramento when they release reports that I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm running for office. I need to read this report. And you sit down to read it, and it's 725 pages long. And you're like, well, who on God's green earth is going to read this thing? And then even begin to digest it. So you can see the strategy that gets played from the other side, that gets poured into our community, that we're having to deal with, because there's a lot of good women and men and water experts dealing with this to no avail. But my pledge is to stand alongside And I'm becoming better educated at that. But my pledge is to stand alongside all those folks. And again, may not make the progress that I would like to make, but I'm going to rattle some cages along the way and make sure that the voice is heard from here. Which, by the way, my little note here, there was a local water ordinance that's to keep water local. And I know there's some cleanup work probably that needs to be done with it, but your incumbent on this District 5, Richard Fagundes, voted no for it. There was 2 no votes. Richard was one of them. No public comments made. Still to this day, I have no idea why he supports allowing water to get pushed out of Kings County and sold to other counties outside of Kings County. It makes no sense. The ordinance doesn't disallow that. It just says you have to have a permit to do it. So if you want to sell water, well, go sell your water. But there needs to be a checks and balance system, and that's what that ordinance did. But our current District 5 supervisor, he voted no for that. And don't even get me going. Okay, get me going. Get me going on the other things that go before that dais. There's things that occur. That we saw the Fargo crossing, right? That debacle. And I was actually watching what was one of 3 meetings over a course of time. But that third and final meeting, I was in my office watching it online, trying to do 2 things at once. The sheriff was in the meeting, and I'm texting him going, what the blank are these guys doing? Like, did they not read these documents? Do they? I think I'm a dim light bulb sometime in this room, but I recognize this. How are they not seeing this? And how are they voting for this and allowing this to continue? Because that whole thing started with, number 1, permission. Can we apply for this? Money. Sure. I'd say yes, apply for it. Second piece of it was we got to award the money. Can we accept the money? Sure. I'd vote to accept the money, but now we've got this money. What are we going to do with it? The first shiny bill that came along, put it over there. There was no direction from the board. There's nobody, and I'm not trying to disparage them, but my process in this is that I'm going to lead the effort. I'm going to go find and research and find this. I don't want the department head to come to me and go, hey, this is what we think needs to happen. Okay, let's do that. That's a great idea. No, that's not effectual leadership. Effectual leadership comes from the 5 board members taking charge of their district and moving whatever the issue is forward and being an advocate for it, and stop just gaveling down whatever the recommendation is. Take the charge and be the leader in it. And you can see the debacle of that. I don't know if you've driven through that parking lot over there. I don't know where anybody's going to park. It's mind-numbing. And we can get onto that later. I'm sure you guys are all upset about that as well as I am. But anyway, third piece on my platform is quality of life. And as I've already kind of alluded to, our families, our children, our neighbors, our small businesses, our schools, they deserve a healthy and a bright future. If you've seen my campaign signs anywhere, you see that the tagline at the bottom is focusing on our future. Walt Disney coined the term, think beyond your lifetime if you truly want to make a difference. And quite frankly, that's how I try to live my personal life and my professional life, that you have to think beyond today and you have to think beyond tomorrow to advocate for these issues. Our kids, our future generations, they deserve advocacy today. And quite frankly, I'm going to say it. Who's doing the advocating? I think we look around and we want someone to, but who's doing it? And it's frustrating, for me anyway, to see it, when we're dealing with homelessness, quality of life, homelessness, jobs, the blight, the dirty streets through the county. When I say focus, when I'm saying quality of life, it is all of that combined. And I think then if you look at the 3 quality of life, ag, and public safety, you get a really good tie together of in totality what I stand and what I represent. If you haven't guessed, I consider myself a Republican, a Christian conservative, a fiscally conservative. As I said, the small details matter most to me. I'll tell you this, I will hold anyone who fails to oversee tax dollars accordingly, or they misappropriate dollars, I'm going to hold them accountable. I can't say that my single vote would terminate them or change the world, but I'm going to hold them accountable. That's a lot of what I do for the sheriff. He gets to be the good guy, I get to be the accountability guy. And so it just kind of comes within my DNA. But that's my pledge, is that I'm going to hold accountable anything that I see that I'm not going to tolerate the lacking oversight. Talk to you about the Walt Disney, but on that, focusing on our future, I won't do a raise a hand, but did you know this? The California Department of Finance projects that the valley's population, so how far north does the valley go? Redding? So I'm talking the valley, right? The whole entire valley is projected to grow by population by about 5 million people by the year 2060. Right here in the central San Joaquin Valley, just under 1 million in that same time period. What's not included in that number, and not a lot of people know this, I know this because Sheriff Robinson visited the border and briefed me on this, is that our central San Joaquin Valley is now home to 300,000 illegal border crossers who've been processed by the federal government, given a court date 10 years out from now, and placed here in the central San Joaquin Valley. So to me, my bell rings, and it's like, what are the impacts to our infrastructure, our schools? I'll tell you that I was at Hanford West. It was a very neat opportunity to go to Hanford West and sit at a desk or at a table, career day, and you have a table to speak to just a rotating group of kids coming through. And I noticed that one of the girls was interpreting for two younger kids, and both those kids have been in California, in this area for 8 days, fresh over. One was from Mexico, and I want to say the other one was from Ecuador. Didn't speak a lick of English, but it was very resounding to me knowing that 300,000 folks are making their homes here. And what does that impact on our schools and our hospitals, our food chain, our water? And when you think about it, if you're sitting in here, anybody doing anything about it? Have you heard anything from anyone leading, saying, hey, we need to start worrying about this? What are we doing to make sure that whoever's responsible for this is sending cash this way for us to anchor up, so we're not having to use our local resources to fund all of this bizarre federal policy? I'm a firm believer in this, that law and order needs to become the forefront of change in this county and in this state and in this country. So I can be a wishful thinker. But on a note with that, did you know that if you're following the California legislative platform, that currently today they are resurrecting the bill that a board of supervisors by a 4/5 vote can eject a duly elected sheriff from office? Did you know that's going to be on the platform again? It was on it last year. It died, and it was like, this is Lazarus. This is going to be raised from the dead, I promise you. And surely it was. And that's why these positions are important. John, I was here a few weeks ago. You did the police state video, and I came down to watch that. And John said it. John Darpley said it from this microphone. Most important election in our county is that of the county sheriff. That's why I've only ever worked for a sheriff. Never worked for a police chief who works for a city manager. I'm not trying to knock that, but I want to work for a constitutionally positioned the sheriff. Next to that, the next most important election is that of a board of supervisor. And you even want to remotely have the opportunity or that a board member, it only takes 4 of them, to oust him. And I tell you what, I will never be one of those. If you get a duly elected sheriff, I might not like what the guy's doing or girl's doing, but it's not for me to do that. And it's not for this crazy liberal legislature in Sacramento to come up with these laws to chokehold all of us. And I'm not going to stand for that. And I'll never vote to remove a sheriff who's been installed by the voters. For me, I come to you to say this. 5 different sheriffs saw something in me that began my promotional journey through the ranks over 34, 35 years. But ultimately, and I don't say this in a cocky sense, I don't mean this in that sense, but I got here to my position and what I do representing the sheriff in our county and our sheriff's office. I got here because I'm exceptional at what I do. I don't mean that like I can't even reach my back to really pat on it. But I got here because I'm exceptional at what I do. I grow relationships, and I've met with many of you here tonight. There's some folks who's not even in here. They're out here drinking. That just good to get caught up with folks, and I cherish those relationships, and I take those with me wherever I go. I will tell you this. I will tell you the truth always. I promise you I will do that. And you may not like that truth that I tell you. But if you don't like that truth that I tell you, I can tell you this. I'm not going to like the truth that I tell you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. That's how you build ethics. And I'm not going to ever push my integrity aside for some dumb personal gain. And I'm completely fine enough to admit, if I were to do something, overstep something that I shouldn't have, I'm not afraid to call myself out, and I do that. So as you can imagine, gosh, I said again. Aside from my duties of running patrol, detectives, our task forces, our coroner's office, our airplanes, our communications, dispatch records, civil jails, there's so many of them, animal services, SWAT. We know, we've got a member in here who knows about SWAT. If you ever went out to his house, you could see we drove a SWAT truck through a house here in Kings County, but there was a bad guy inside of it. Aside from all of that, I sit currently on our Kings County Homeless Collaborative. I was appointed to that collaborative by a unanimous vote of our Board of Supervisors. I also sit on the executive board for the Kings Partnership for Prevention, and I've sat on a number of other executive committees. And again, I've witnessed the approaches that are not working. They're not. And people, well, I'll get to that here in just a second. Aside, again, from my duties, I sit on the California State Sheriff's Office, or Sheriff's Association, the legislative platform. So it's getting ready. We're getting ready to get in the silly season again, right, where we just have to go fight what's going on in Sacramento. We spend a lot of time in Sacramento dealing with these things. And this is the part that I was kind of putting off for a second. I've also sat with folks who represent the Public Policy Institute of California. And, and I've had to sit at that table. And I can tell you, I can confirm with you, they do not have your interests at heart in Sacramento and these regulatory aspects of things, I guess it's kind of a privilege that you get to go sit on it. But, man, you lose some brain cells by the end of the day, dealing with people who actually believe that these evidenced practices work. And I give them credit. Whoever came up with that word, evidence-based practices, you get a 10 out of 10 on your little score. But it hasn't fooled any of us in this room, but it's fooled a lot of people involved in policy, and it's just not working. And again, I don't have a magic wand that's going to one day stop that, and you guys are going to be like, oh, that was the best vote ever. Robert did so great. It's not going to work that way. But nevertheless, we have to have a leader at the table who is marching this forward. Because my pledge, again, it's not just to serve District 5, and I don't mean this even in a bad sense, but it's also to serve our other board members and show them this is the direction, and those who want to go, let's go. But this is how it's got to be done, and then hopefully city leaders follow, and then school board members follow. I often think that too many times, and I've had meetings recently with the mayor and the vice mayor on some homeless issues, and I've said to them, stop listening to your attorneys. I didn't vote for an attorney. I voted, yeah, everybody clap, yay. I didn't vote for an attorney. And I voted for an elected official to push an agenda forward. And then it gets to an attorney that's like, oh, stop. Well, I can tell you, I introduced you earlier to a deposition reporter, a court reporter. Civil litigation put my kids through private college, so thank you for your lawsuits, right? Not one penny has ever entered the Thayer household checking account because of a lawsuit over a homeless person. Never. Not yet. Now, maybe that's a market that's going to come down the line someday, but it just isn't. And I don't see it. But you have all of these folks in charge who are so scared. And I'm not saying to not be, and I'm not saying to not progress reasonably and carefully, but I'm not a fan of putting all my value into that of an attorney. I think you guys get this point that I've patrolled literally every square mile of this county. I know our families. I've served in Avenel and Kettleman and all through this county. And again, I want to take that skill set into this office. That's what my offering is to the voter, is to take this skill set into the office of the District 5 supervisor. I'm certain that most of us in this room, again, that we're like-minded, that we can agree that government waste needs to come to a stop. So what am I going to do? Should I earn this from the voters? Well, my plan is to serve you. My plan is to serve our other board members, our department heads, our city officials, and get to work for District 5. I will get to work on the homeless issues in our county. In fact, the day that I get sworn into office, I'm going to self-appoint myself, right, as the advocate for the District 5 and start moving forward with this. We are actually, I was just talking to Jason back here earlier that I made some I've only made 2 Facebook posts in my political career, and both of them tried to get me in trouble. And I was kind of a little bizarre about it. I'll tell you about it offline, but it just very, very interesting. But from those, believe it or not, we're actually beginning to make some progress with the county and with the city of Hanford on these blight issues. And again, I mentioned I had these meetings with with the mayor and the vice mayor, 3 hours apiece. And I shared with them that I understand the Idaho decision, but stop listening to your attorneys. It's very simple. What is the public square? Define it in your legislation. What are your camping hours? Not your hoarding hours, and that you're going to put everything else that you own on the sidewalk on a city street. But what is it? Where can you camp? Well, you can't camp on a sidewalk. You can't camp within a certain distance of a street. You can't camp within a certain distance of a waterway, a railway, whatever else. You can legislate that. You can legislate that locally and begin to enforce it. And I can tell you that our office is more than happy that if these jurisdictions want to make them a misdemeanor, arrest them and come put them in jail. We're happy. We got room. This notion that we don't have room in our jails, that's a falsehood. That's a falsehood. We don't control the bail schedule. We don't control some other things that deal with the release of the inmates, but bring them in. And there's a difference, too, with homelessness. There's the homeless person who chooses to be homeless, and then there's the homeless person who really is just on bad times. They don't want to be homeless. Well, that person, hey, we can connect you with very readily available services all through this county. You can go look at the budget books. There's lots of money available for that. But you keep in mind that there's those 2 pieces, and that the self-appointment to this homeless issue is one that I want to take forward. Ball's already kind of starting to roll. I'm hopeful that we can all still get along and get moving on these, and that I will tell you, I was eavesdropping today, and there was an attorney talking. When the attorney was done talking, I was like, was that so-and-so talking? And the sheriff said, yeah, and I just turned around and I walked out. I was like, there we go. Somebody's listening to an attorney. And again, it's not that we shouldn't, but let's just see if we're going to take their advice. My plan, and I think there becomes board appointments. The board members get to appoint themselves to different things. My hope is that I can get involved with the California State Association of Counties, CSAC. That the local issues are local issues, but they I don't want to say they don't get resolved here locally, because they do, but they get fixed with processes out of Sacramento And you have to be there, and you have to be with, in this case, Devin Mathis and Melissa Hurtado. Those are our two local main reps for this part of Kings County. And we need to be with them to make sure that they're pushing our voices forward. It's important. And my plan, if the voters put me in, I want to be involved in that. I think it's extremely important. And I'll begin to start digressing and end with this. So who has endorsed me? I was hoping that he was going to be here tonight to introduce me. He's obviously busy, a very busy man. But Sheriff Mike Boudreau, Tulare County Sheriff Mike Boudreau, he's now a candidate for the 20th Congressional District, is my sheriff endorsement. Some of you may be aware, Dave Robinson, Sheriff Robinson, knows the Pepe family and he knows the Thayer family, and he's a smart man and he's not going to get involved in politics. I personally consider the fact that I'm his undersheriff as an endorsement enough that I'm in this position and I remain in this position, and that's good enough for me. But our good friend or our neighbor to the east of us, Sheriff Mike Boudreau, has stepped into that position and has endorsed me. Our district attorney, Sarah Hacker, has endorsed me. And our assessor clerk recorder, Christy Lee, has endorsed me. And then lastly for now, I should say, is our former Senator Andy Vidak has endorsed me. And I'll tell you how I go about these endorsements. First off, I know each and every one of them personally. And I ask, Mark, will you endorse me? Don't say anything. Think about it, and I'll get back with you. Because I don't want the awkwardness of going, oh, okay, yeah, I'll endorse you. And you really don't want to, right? I want it to be solid. And in each of these endorsements to this date, those 4 or 5 core endorsements are important to me. And you'll see that as this campaign goes on, begin to start coming out. But aside from those, it was important for me to gain these, and I have them, and I have many of them. Healthcare professionals, I have doctors, medical doctors and nurses. I have mental health professionals, including doctors and caseworkers and case managers from the mental health sides of things. I have chiefs of police, law enforcement managers, police officers, deputy sheriffs, CHP officers, correctional officers, firefighters, school administrators, school teachers, small business owners, nonprofit directors, pastors, realtors. If you don't know this, even Adam Medeiros back here endorsed me one day for a little bit before he decided to run for office. But Adam, I still accept your endorsement, buddy. Adam is good people, and I love his family, and beautiful family. But I say this, and I'll close with this. These folks endorse me because they know me. They know my ethics, and they know my abilities and my passion to serve. They didn't do it as a favor because they're friends with the local chairman on a certain committee in this county. It's not how it happened. I stand before you that I earned them because I earned them. And then the 150, 160 plus folks that just have either reached out to me or through messaging have jumped on board to lend me their name. And I'll say this, if you like what you've heard this evening, if you want to learn more, electrobertthayer.com is my website. There's a little bit more information on there. Some of my demonstrated successes, I guess you could say, that are on there. But there's some key buttons on there. There's an endorsement button. You can go on there and go, hey, I want to endorse you. There's a button on there. You can message me, like if you want a sign, which, by the way, I've got some big 4-foot by 4-foot signs and some 4-foot by 8-foot signs. If you live in high traffic areas, I'd be happy to deliver them and set them up on your property. I have a few of those, or if you want some little signs, I have those too. But I'm going to give you my phone number. Just don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. But 559-469-6152 is my cell phone. I know it's going on Facebook Live, so I'm sure people are going to start pinging me. But it's already It's my personal phone, but it's already on the sheriff's office website. People call me on that all the time. We will. We will. I was trying not to show up though, Brad, because I'm trying to let the succession plan work itself out. But when I learned we had to drive a SWAT truck through your house, I figured I better roll out there. Anyway, that's really what I came prepared to speak to you. I'm happy to, I assume we have some opportunities to answer questions. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability anyway.
Hold on just a second. We'll get the mic to you since we're live streaming and everyone's got to speak to the mic. I just want to remind everybody that make sure that when you grab the mic, you're asking an actual question and not making a statement. We'll try to get to everybody and have the ability to ask a question. Robert, it was good to hear your platform. A lot of the issues you hit on were issues that we've had guest speakers for. Jeff Garner's been here. Doug Verboon's been out here. You know, Travis Payton, the mayor, the vice mayor. We've had all these issues that you're talking about are issues that we're concerned with. We've had people out here to have town halls and discuss those issues. So I'm hoping that you have some thorough and good ideas related to those issues. But what would be, if you had all the magic, what would be your first item on the agenda to fix?
Well, the very first ones, and unfortunately, I don't work in that way. I have 95 tabs open at all time, and so I'm used to working in that field. But one, you know, I know that some of the core issues are the homeless issues, at least when it comes to the blight issues and the camping on public sidewalks and that aspect of things. And that needs to be addressed. And again, it gets legislated first. It has to be. The county and the cities have to come together with exact legislation, exact ordinances, right, so that we can begin the enforcement aspect of it. The Jeff Garner group comes into play for those folks that don't necessarily, like they're in a bad spot. They don't want to be here. And it's like, well, hey, we can put you into a bed over here. What Jeff is doing in our community is a good thing. And we need to get those types of beds available for those that we can push off into it. If I had the magic wand, though, I would go into our K-12 program and wave my magic wand there. I look at this and I say this. I walk through our jails and I look on the other side of the steel doors. My son Peyton down here worked in our jails for a short period of time before he was a school teacher. And I can look at a person, a human being on the other side of that door. And I'm like, I want to know what your third grade teacher thought of you. How are you here? This is the United States of America. How are you sitting in this jail? And who and what? And the largest K-12 program, well, it's really the largest government structure across the country. How did you progress through this whole thing and end up here? Where did the advocacy break? So that would kind of be a magic one. I don't think, as a board member, I don't have a lot of clout in the education field, but we need to ask those questions nevertheless of how is this continuing to happen and kids falling through and coming out with addictions and the things that are coming. The second piece of that too is the homeless thing. We need to really drill down even on the enforcement side. I think there becomes kind of a fog, if you will, in law enforcement. You know, that well, they're going to let them out anyway, so why are we going to do this? And I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of, no, you need to arrest this person for being under the influence and book them in jail. And if the jail won't accept them because they need to be medically cleared, take them to the hospital. And we find, well, the hospital is going to clear them, and they bring them back to the jail, and it's like, nope, they're still not cleared. This person's blood pressure is through the roof, and they're going to die. The hospital needs to be at the table, and they need to be a part of this process, and we just have to do it over and over and over and over and over again. It's like I said at the beginning, it's like eating an elephant. You just start one bite at a time. And again, there's multiple facets to it, but I hope that answered your question.
Very acceptable answer. All right, we'll open up questions to the audience. Make sure that you have a mic on. If you have a follow-up to your question, and I've taken the mic back, wait to get the mic back so that our live stream, the folks listening at home know exactly what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, Robert, I got a flyer in the mail from Halissa Hurtado, and she was saying that she just got another $1 million for Kings County Action Organization. Those people fund the soup kitchen, which feeds these people. It is well known in all the counties around here, all the cities around here, Hanford feeds them. So where do you think they come? They come here. If you want to get rid of a dog around your house, quit feeding it. Why are we spending taxpayer dollars to keep Kings County Action Organization running? Why don't they keep the people in the cities where they are? Tulare, for example, cleaned them all out, found a place out in the country, and put them there.
Yeah, the city of Tulare, and I've driven by that site, and I don't know what you want to call that homeless encampment in the city of Tulare, but it's like City of Tulare Part B. It's got its own government structure and its own issues within there. I think sometimes people think that King's Community Action, KCO, Jeff Gardner's group that he leads, is doing that food. That's a church across the street here that does that. Jeff's, they do food banks, and I would encourage you, go to one of the community's food banks and go see who's in those lines. I've been in their homes, and it's when I said at the beginning, I've seen poverty. It's very, very, very sad. And when you look, I'll give you an example. Cattleman City. Go out to Cattleman City. You know what they don't have in Cattleman City? They don't have a grocery store. Yeah. All of us in this room can drive it in about a mile direction anyway and go get fresh fruit. You can't do that in Cattleman City. And so KCAO hits places like that with their food bank. And so don't intermingle them with the, that we're throwing food out for it. It's not. There is a section of our communities that are very, very, very desperate in need. And when you're in there and you're in their homes and you see it, it impacts you personally, and you recognize why that is occurring. So I wish it didn't. I mean, that would be part of my magic wand to fix.
Very good. A resource we have available is we've done town halls with Jeff Gardner, and they're available on our Facebook page if you want to see that interaction with Jeff and his involvement with KCAO and kind of get some background information. It's definitely available on our Facebook page.
My question for you is, about 8 years ago, the Board of Supervisors made the Register of Voters a appointed position, and went against a lot of the citizens of the county. What are your thoughts on returning that position up for election to a not appointed but elected position? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, I recognize this, that it's either the assessor or the recorder. One of Christy Lee's titles is one of them, though, is constitutionally protected. Like, I'll give you this for the sheriff. The sheriff is a constitutional position, but he's not just the sheriff. He's the sheriff. He's the coroner. He's the public administrator. And the board, should they decide to, they could take away public administrator and the coroner and just leave him as sheriff. And I know that's what the board did when it came to Christie. It was probably another one of those text message things between the sheriff and I. What are these guys doing? What's the issue? That Christie was bringing forth voting apparatuses that were in conflict with the board. And my personal opinion is the board was not in agreement with the platforms which she was trying to bring in. And so in order to rectify the issue, they cut her from that herd, recreated the elections department, and appointed Lupe Villa, who's it today. I'm not opposed to re-looking at those types of things. I think it costs a lot of money I know it costs a lot of money to add another department head to that position, and so, tight times, you can replace that department under another department head, if you will. Am I answering your question?
No.
So you want to know, would I consider putting it back under an elected official? Well, I suppose the only elected official you could do it would be back under the assessor, clerk, recorder. And yes, I'm not opposed to doing that. If Lupe sailed off tomorrow into retirement land and we had to do something with it, it's a good idea. You could put it right back under there.
He would be open to run for that position. We just want the say on our choice is to elect a person, not someone appointed
Right.
by the Board of Supervisors.
Right, and I think if you, and I don't want to guess, it's assessor, clerk, recorder. I think it's the assessor piece that is the constitutionally protected piece. Or it could be the tax, or the tax collector piece. One of those is the constitutionally protected. The other ones, they throw onto department heads to help let one department head run many things.
Just to piggyback on that, and you talked about as far as financially, we're already paying Loopy to take that job. So to change that position from a appointed position to an elected position wouldn't cost us any more money than it's costing us right now. And that person, with all the election integrity issues, that person will be beholden to the voters and not to the county, where the voters were that they should be beholden to, because we want the ability to remove them from that position if they're not doing their job and not worried about issues with the county not being able to remove them. That should be our job as voters, to remove someone who's not running the election the way the voters think it should be ran.
Right, and I guess my question, the thought process that gets my mind rolling is that does the California Constitution allow for that to be a standalone elected position? I don't know. Remember when I said I won't lie to you? I don't know. I don't know if that can be. But I'm not opposed to that. I mean, if it's a wave of a magic wand to do that, I'd be interested in hearing about how that would go about doing that. And you're saying that then make Lupe run, a 5-district election to become elected.
It'd be similar to Fresno. Fresno County is a standalone.
I guess the point is, you're talking about the sheriff, having so much authority and he's beholden to the people, and and the county shouldn't be able to, remove the sheriff. Well, the people should be able to remove the registrar of voters. If to me, that's just as important job as the sheriff's office. Look at all the voter integrity issues we're having nationwide. To me, that's just as an important role. So to have a public employee who really has no, doesn't have to, no accountability to us as the voter, that's a serious issue in our eyes.
No, thank you for that. Thank you, Jason. I didn't realize that Fresno County's Register of Voters was a standalone, no other departments associated with it? Okay.
I'll get to you right now, Joseph.
Piggyback off of the gentleman's comment over here in regards to KCAO. I think that the government should be out of the hands. I mean, the government should not be have their hand in the homelessness problems. I grew up in Fresno. Poverello House is in Fresno. They run most of the homeless program. They do a fantastic job. Some money is funneled through it. But my question here is, here in Kings County, we've kicked the can down the road numerous times with building a homeless shelter or the county handling the homeless. What are your thoughts in regards to the county handling it versus the nonprofits handling it? And I know that you serve on a couple of the boards as well.
Right, and again, I'm that guy in the room that becomes very careful when I raise my hand and ask questions, because I get what seems to be 92 daggers thrown at me sometimes. But it is a good point. Can government escape from it completely? I don't know. I mean, I'm for small government. I don't want the government in my back pocket. And again, if there was some method out of this that you didn't have to have government involvement to do it, and you could just have the community deal, I don't know. I think we know how we got here, right? Assembly Bill 109, back in 2011, we flushed California's prisons into our poor county jails. We are inundated with a very high level of sophistication of inmates that come into our jails because they roll fresh out of the SHU unit at Corcoran State Prison, having served 30 years, into Kings County Jail. And then talk about a cannonball in your pool, right? But out of that flushed, you do the math, 300 some odd homeless folks here, 300 some odd, realignment folks that are no longer in prison. And it's really sad that the state's done this, right? Because the state alleged that they weren't getting the mental health care that they were deserved in the institution in the prisons. So yeah, let's just kick them out on the road in tents where they have nothing. At least they had something when they were in prisons. And I actually kind of have a hopeful that the pendulum can swing back the other direction and those policies can begin to be reversed. I know that they're trying to do some cleanup bills. You see them with the thefts and the retail thefts, and all of a sudden California legislators are spinning their wheels trying to get these things done, and state sheriffs and chiefs of police are like, we told you so. We told you this 13 years ago that this was going to happen. And it's a mess that needs to get cleaned up. I don't know if that answered your question, Jason, but I don't think that, I don't like the fact that government needs to be involved in it. But
Our current Board of Supervisors continues to funnel money through different departments to combat homelessness, and it's just, we're not seeing any change in it. I mean, we've got you mentioned you said Fargo Crossing, but it's North Star, I think, is what you meant. And then over on 10th Avenue, they're building some mini trailers there off, and that's been kicked down the road. You've got a couple of hotels out on Lacey Boulevard, but it's it just keeps, the current Board of Supervisors just keep handing over money after money after money, and I think we need some representation that's looking at it to, like I said, nonprofits should be handling this, not the government. It's just like the government, the city of Hanford owning different buildings and renting them out. I mean, there's things government should be doing and not be doing, and homelessness is one of them.
You remember that part where I said, I will hold anyone who fails to oversee taxpayers' dollars appropriately accountable. I'm not going to tolerate it. And I'm already the one not tolerating it. And I've had conversations with I'll say it, with people in your office that they're waiting on a certain piece to go on the side of the building to finish one of these things out here. And they're like, oh, well, they're just like this. Oh, well, you just gotta wait. It's going to come on down. I don't know, a couple months, maybe 3 months down the line. And I'm like, you need to get on an airplane and fly to this place and go bang on the desk and demand they get that for you now. Stop waiting for just the circumstance to happen. And those things need to happen. And I know this it's now going to be at 10th and HA that a department failed to oversee that program. And they've now kicked it to King's Gospel Mission. It's what the county did. $500,000, I think it's a $500,000 project. County can't deal with this anymore, so we're going to kick it to King's Gospel. And Dave Clevenger's trying to do his best to get this thing revigorated and ready to go, but the whole thing is that it was government failing to begin with because nobody's overseeing the darn thing. And those parts and pieces right now, today, those are the things that get me the glares from the other people in the room when I bring it up, because it needs to be held accountable. And it really surprises me that it doesn't. And quite frankly, Jason, it surprises me that they continue to fund it. And I don't know why. I made a mention to one of our board members that I said, hey, have you read this agenda? Because my Mondays, like today, I spent 2-3 hours reading the agenda. Not just the 3-page document, but the 100-page underlying document of what supports everything that's going to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow. And one of them was an expenditure. It was a $500,000 expenditure going to Boston, Massachusetts, or somewhere in Massachusetts, for one individual, one Kings County resident that is receiving a bed in Massachusetts. And I asked the question, what is this? And I think it was on the consent calendar. Well, one of the board members called it off the consent calendar, and they did some follow-up on it, and they got some answers the following week, and then they gavelled, and it was a 5-0 vote on it. And I was like, I'd have voted no. Because I know that one of the directors was like, well, there's these HIPAA issues involved. I'm like, I don't care. I want the answer. And if you're not going to give it to me, no. Let's all vote no. And then see how that $500,000 is going to get sent. Maybe it is. It's a pass-through. Sometimes our county, because we're the smaller agency, the state pays for it, but they have to pass it through our dollars our coffers in order to get it out there. And maybe that's what that was. But I don't know. I still stand before you today. I don't know what the answer is. But I know it happened, and I still question it.
What do you think about evaluation of each homeless person and treat them as a human being, find out why they're homeless, and try to help them to get beyond homeless instead of, like we've been doing, we live in an affluent society, but we're really not. We're just printing more money that we don't have, trillions of dollars, and we're just saying, stick those people over there so they don't bother our way of life. But
Right.
if we want to get down to the bottom of it, we're going to have to evaluate these people one-on-one, find out what happened to them, where they're coming at, and
I
go
know
from
there
there.
are folks that are out doing that. That there are pieces from the Tulare Kings Homeless Alliance. In fact, we're getting ready to do a point-in-time count in January. I don't know what the exact date. I think it's later this month. 26th of this month. They go do a point-in-time count, just counting. But I know that there are caseworkers and case managers and that go out and they do these things, and they bring them back to our homeless collaborative, and you hear the stories. But I know that a lot of it, I think that those departments that deal with that need to become more like law enforcement and start responding out 24 hours a day. Homeless isn't an 8 to 5 issue, but it seems that that's how it gets worked sometimes, but it's really a 24/7 issue. But I do know that there are people that are out doing that, and the range of excuses are wide ranging. A lot of people are coming out of custody. They don't have any family. They've burnt all those bridges. You can see how it is, even in a moderate family income in this county, is expensive to live, let alone when you don't have anything. So I do know that that's occurring. I don't know what the exact pathway is out of those things. It is complicated. It's multifaceted. I know the solution to the blight. I know what you were talking about, Brad, about, you set the food out, you're going to attract a lot more. That's why the city of Hanford has a lot more homeless than the city of Avenel. It's because these are where these resources are coming. But then it becomes just a matter of kind of like a traffic controller of how do you direct this to deal with the situation and try to impact the rest of the community that deserves to live in a cleaner society interactively together. And I believe that there's methods out of it. A lot of it's going to come with policy out of the state of Sacramento, or the city of Sacramento. And I think the pendulum's starting to change. You see it happening right now in San Francisco. Big policy changes in those cities.
Any more questions? Anybody else have a question? Here we go. Mike.
Thank you for coming tonight. On a different subject, a lot of us are concerned about voter fraud and integrity, mainly in Kings County, and we're concerned about the Dominion voting machines. They're a little sketchy, we feel, for a lot of different reasons. Shasta County went to voter ID and paper ballots. We feel that's the best way to, clean it up. Everything's transparent out in the open, but it's the Board of Supervisors that has to make that decision. How do you feel about
Well,
that?
it's a good question. I do know that, not that you trust the state of California or the Secretary of State to do what's right, I do know that whatever the counting aspect of ballots have to be an approved vendor by the Secretary of State, right, in the California Secretary of State. I do know that when we did paper ballots, they were counted by Dominion voting machines. And I do know this, that in the current standard of today, that all of us want to get into these Dominion voting machines, and there's proprietary issues, right, that to be like, hey, I own this information. I'm just not going to crack this to anybody, because then you're going to go out and make your own voting machine and compete against me, and register yours with the Secretary of State. I can say from the fraud aspect, that as the undersheriff in this county, believe it or not, there's a lot of crimes at high levels of very disturbing levels that cross my desk that I'm obligated to look into and that we investigate. and not once ever have I ever received anything about voter fraud, ever. So I hear the rumors, and I'm not gonna.
Well, why does it have to be counted by the machine, it can't be counted by hand, like we used to do it? Sorry.
Say it again.
So why does it have to be counted by the Dominion machine and not counted by, precincts by hand?
My understanding is that they never were counted by hand. I mean, I guess maybe back, when somebody maybe wrote the name in or something, maybe in that fashion. That whatever there is, there's all of you in this room today have the right that what day is March? Is it March 7th, Adam? March 5th. March 5th. That everyone in this room has the right to go down to those voting machines and watch this take place, and to be in the room and watch it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm open to solutions. And I'm open to ideas. I'm just saying that when it comes to the voter fraud, it's never crossed my desk. I do see clearly that the voter rolls need to be cleaned up, that there's people who are receiving ballots that no longer live in this county or live in this state or live in this district. They live in that district. And those things are important. Those things need to happen. But also, in regards to that, I say this. I look at the left. I've seen these buses. You can go down to City Cork and you'll see 3 buses coming up from the Bay Area filled with people on the other side of the aisle that are out harvesting ballots, right? I think it's illegal as heck, but states said it's not. And so these people are taking advantage of it. But you know what I do not see? I look over here to the other side of the aisle. I don't see any conservatives coming together and doing the same thing. And that's a piece that needs to be addressed. That's an easier piece to be addressed than trying to wipe the slate clean of the ballots. I don't want to speak uneducated on this piece, but I'm also understanding that there's something coming out of the state of California that, because of what Shasta is doing, that the state is going to legislate that you can't do that, right? If you remember back years ago, this Kingsburg school district said, teachers, bring your guns to the school. CCW holders, bring your guns to the school. And like that, state legislators were like, no guns on campus. That's when that started, right out of the city of Kingsburg. And so, checkmate, it's that. But still on that same regard, we're suffering the effects from all of that, but the end result is these types of elections today. And for you who are in this room as well, to rise up and start taking on these elected positions. I saw Mark Hyras today. There's some committee he has for District E in the city of Hanford, and it's like, I'm just kind of curious. I'll call him in a week or so and be like, hey, how many people put in for that? Because he needs people to be on this committee that whatever it was. Did they? Because they didn't get anybody, right? Because we're like, that's for somebody else. But who's going to, let me tell you who's going to step up. Who steps up into those positions is your liberal left. And then they get behind the driver's seat and they get behind the steering wheel, and we're all passengers on an out-of-control bus because nobody stepped up to be this driver. And at the end of the day, that's really what solutions are.
I want to add a little bit to what Mike said. Well, not add, I want to ask you a question. Our contract with Dominion, with the Kings County Cup, it's either the year 26 or 28. When that contract comes up with Dominion, are you going to, if you're there, are you going to support a new contract with Dominion, or you going to look at possibly getting rid of Dominion?
I'm always a fan of shaking the tree.
Okay.
I'm always a fan of that. You can go dig back into the sheriff's office and see how many of our upper division commanders I've given gray hair because I'm like, I don't know if we want to go in that direction. Let's change things up. Because, the easy thing to do is to go, the easy thing is to do is let's not upset the apple cart. But I'm not afraid to upset the apple cart if it's for the betterment of things.
Yeah, Robert, like 1776ers brought to our attention with 20 mules, why don't we have cameras on these collection boxes to make sure people are only putting in one vote?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what the answer. I don't know if we can legally do that. I don't know if there's some wackadoodle law that says you can't. I don't know. But I know that these things should be transparent, and that we in this room can all be witness to it if we make ourselves witness to it.
This will be our last question, then I'll give you a minute to give us your final thoughts.
So, Robert, it sounds like a lot of people are very concerned about election integrity. So being that you've heard that over and over tonight, how would you think as a District 5 supervisor you might try and address that in either information finding or meeting with your constituents? How might you address that?
Well, I think in one of the starts, and I see it personally, because I have this, the 16,000 plus voters, registered voters in District 5. And as I scroll through them on my computer, I see the names of the people that are either dead or they're no longer living here that I personally know. And I can only imagine how many others on there that I don't know that are in that position. So I think one of the first pieces is to clean up those voter rolls. The second thing is, too, of course, there's these issues that are coming from the community. And I remember when this all happened and they axed Christy Lee from that position. And I don't recall there being a significant outcry within those board chambers to change any of that at that point in time. But I'm not opposed to listening and being part of that. I think it's not easy just to say, oh, this is what we need to do. It goes down to what I said at the very beginning. It's the very fine details. What can we do? What do we have authority over? I know we get the authority to choose what the next, whether it's paper ballots and you just go back to Shasta County. I think I read that article. It was like $3 million, and it was like, it doesn't cost $3 million. It costs you the same amount of personnel that you already budget into that budget. But is that the most effective way? I'm not opposed to any of that. I'm for listening. I'm for solutions. I'm for good ideas. And then to take those forward and go into the fine details of them and see if these are actually pathways to a more productive, trustworthy election process. But again, if there's election integrity that rises to the level of crimes in this county, I'd love to see what it is, but I can tell you that our office it hasn't crossed our desks that says this is what this is. That John Smith has been dead for 5 years and he's voted in the last 5 elections. You guys can see him. I've got polling information now that shows voters who voted in the last 5 elections. I wanted to know who voted in the last 5 elections, and they're all there. And I'm sure that that you can go through those and go, well, this person has voted and they don't live in this county. That would be an example. This person voted in this county and they're dead. Those are those things that the type of work that needs to be done to raise to that level, and then you can start showing your case and laying the foundation for that necessary change.
It's your time to make an exit, a memorable exit, Robert.
Well, memorable? Let me take my sports jacket. No, thank you for being here, and thank you, Adam, for being in here too. It's I'm glad to see you here. I think there's somebody else, another candidate, that's going to speak next week that I'm going to sit and enjoy watching that gentleman bring forth. Again, the reason I'm running is that I'm not done serving, and I know that I come into this with a very unique perspective that really just the other candidates don't, not even the incumbent. When the incumbent has issues in the District 5 area, he would call me. Well, he called me before I filed the run. Now he won't talk to me anymore. But prior to that, he would call me. He would have the issues in the District 5 area, and my phone would ring, and it'd be like, okay, I'll go check into this for you. That's not my nature. If I get an issue, I'm going to go deal with it myself, because I know how to deal with it myself, and I know the resources and where to go to get it done. And quite frankly, if people get in my way in doing it, I'm going to run them right over. That's just the way that Robert Thayer operates. And I say that with all due respect to anybody and everybody that is within the system, but it's just what is necessary if you want to effectuate correct change and to start being the leader that this county needs to bring back a sense of restoration in this county. I think we all miss it. It's frustrating. And and that's why I've thrown my hat into this ring, is to do that and to continue to serve should the voters choose that.
Let's give Robert a hand. I'll take the mic from you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Just a couple things before we close the evening. We'll close the evening with a prayer if Joseph will come up. But a couple things. If you're available, join us next week. Again, like Robert said, Tyler Pepe will be our guest speaker, Town Hall, next week. And ask him some of the questions that you may have for him. Let's listen to his platform. And hopefully it's very informative. The following week will be Adam Medeiros. Hopefully you can make the whole trilogy and come out and listen to all the candidates speak. Fagundes was invited. Last we heard, he's not going to come to speak. He's not going to come to the debate as far as we know. So it's important that our elected officials or the prospects, right, for that position come and speak to us and be able to be questioned by the public. There should be that open line of communication. I'm very leery about politicians that won't take a debate or won't come and speak in a public forum. There's things to be concerned about. So with that being said, we've invited, again, every Board of Supervisors District 5 candidate, every candidate for the 20th and 22nd Congressional District, and 33rd Assembly District debate. So that's another open invitation. If you haven't confirmed with John, then give us a call if you want to be involved in that debate. But again, I think it would behoove you as a candidate for any elected position to speak to your constituents in an open, honest, candid forum. Also, I think that's it. John is our current president. Any words, John?
Make sure you guys come out to the debate and I set up. See, now Robert, you got me thinking. Make sure you come out to these debates. Pay attention. If you can't get there, if you can't get there, watch it online on our Facebook live stream on our 1776 Sons of Liberty page. Pay attention, right? I've said before to the other groups, just because you know somebody, hey, I know that guy or I know that lady, doesn't mean they make a great board of supervisor or a great city councilman. I have a lot of friends and I like them, but if they ran for an office, I would never vote for them because they're just not. Yeah, I wouldn't. And that's serious. So we got to vet every candidate. And by showing up to forums like this, to the debates, this is how we find out who they are, and we hold their feet to the fire when they get in office. So when they get in office, we're going to say, hey, you came and told us this. And we want to know why, what has changed? Why did you go against what you said? So that's very important because we all know how many times we voted for somebody that got in office. Like, what the heck? You said. We had the last election, we had a couple people here that said one thing. As soon as they got in office, they did the opposite. And a lot of you here that saw and heard them. And that really upset us. I mean, immediately. So these things are very important so we can vet them and get out here. And that's why we have everybody's invited here to come to speak, every candidate if they want to come here and speak. So we don't pick and choose Robert or Adam who's going to speak. Pepe's coming next week. Surprisingly, he decided to come. That's awesome. We want to hear what he has to say. Our group is an open forum of information. We meet every Monday at 7 o'clock here, unless it's a holiday or something. And this is what we are, an informational group. You'd be surprised the amount of information and really intelligent people in this group. And you'd probably love to hear what they have to say. The other option, you could be home on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. So you come here, and if you can, once in a while, make a meeting, and you'll enjoy it. We are going to do from Adam Medeiros, kindly donated a $20 gift certificate from Mike's Grill. We started a little raffle that Kimber started in our group, that every week we try to do a little raffle, somebody wins something. All right. Here you go, Larry. You want to pick it?
I was going to have your.
I don't have my glasses. You have to read that. You don't have your glasses either?
The last three numbers are 353.
You got? No. Oh, man. This guy wins everything. Okay, thank you guys all for coming.
We're going to go out with a prayer.
We're going to go out with a prayer right now, and then